Hello and welcome to a very special episode of What Do You Call It podcast. I'm your host, GB. Today's guest is Riley TEJCEK, a US Marine Corps officer, elite bobsled athlete, game show winner, author, and now a guest of my podcast. Riley, welcome to the show. How you been?
Oh, I'm doing good. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome, awesome. We should have a good chat for the next 20, 30 minutes or so. What I'm going to ask you first of all is what inspired you to join the military?
Hmm. So, full disclosure, I had no background in the military. My dad was a professional baseball player. My mom was a successful businesswoman. So, the military was never something I was thinking about. It really wasn't until I got to college and I was a Division I softball player as an athlete that I met a Marine recruiter. And he absolutely changed my mind on the whole military route. He was strong and handsome and well spoken and talked about what it meant to be a leader and to serve your country and do something bigger than yourself and then do it in the Marine Corps of all branches. That was arguably the hardest branch to be able to get your foot in the door based off of physical requirements. And I love a challenge.
What were your parents' reaction when you did join the military, by the way?
Ooh, well, initially they weren't great. I think my mom cried a bit, and my dad was just like, "It's a phase, honey. Like,
Yeah.
she's only 18. This won't actually happen." But I think once they saw me after I came back from training and just the progress that I made and the person that I was, and how I was this great athlete, but then I was able to transform into this like sharp, intelligent leader as a military member. My parents now, like full 360, are like so
Yeah.
invested. My mom has like a Marine mom bumper sticker, which I still try to tell her to take off to this day. But they couldn't be more proud. But initially, there was some concerns for sure.
That's great. That's great. What does serving mean to you on a
Mm.
personal level?
So for me, everything ties back to my Christian faith, which is my foundation, and believing that my calling is to be a servant leader, which means I live my life in order to serve others, just as like Jesus did. And so it's really unique how you can turn that into the military. And I believe that my job in the military, my goal is to make the lives of the people around me better, but ultimately protect basic freedoms and rights that we all deserve. And so, what really motivates me to keep going, honestly, is seeing the impact that I get to make, not only on a small scale to the people that I serve with, but also in a bigger stage when I was able to deploy and go to Iraq and meet different people from different cultures and just really be able to use my skills in the military to make a difference for the best to impact people.
Honestly, I have so much respect for people that sort of, commit to the military and the sacrifice, that you guys do. It's incredible, to be honest. I absolutely admire it. Just one last question I do want to ask you is what's something that you can talk about that people might find very surprising about the military? So they'd be like,
Mm.
oh, that's quite interesting. That's quite cool. Never expected that.
Oof. Gosh, I think there's so much that people may not expect, but I think a fun thing is looking into our culture and traditions. I would say the military is known, and you think of it just being really people that are like hard and like
Yeah.
rough and rigid, maybe, right? And while that exists, we also are like incredible like gift givers and lovers, and we form close bonds with people that we only get to interact with for a really short time. So I say that because just recently we've had several individuals retire after 20 plus years of service or are about to move. The summer is like a big moving cycle for people every 2 to 3 years. And we spend like our own personal money, like hundreds of dollars to give going away gifts for people. And
Oh,
yeah, people don't really realize that. Like we are big gift givers. And it's like a big tradition that you make almost like the shadow box where you put accomplishments and you write like a little blurb of like funny story that they did and wishing them well for their next jobs. And then you carry these tokens, momentums with them and you hang them up in your office. So every job that you go, you can tell who's been more senior because they have more gifts or plaques or
yeah.
stuff like that. But most people, I think, don't realize that we have that sentimental value, that we really cherish and value our people, even though sometimes we only work with them for like 2 years. And we just go above and beyond to make sure that they're seen, recognized, and taken care of. And I know in comparative to like the civilian sector, people will work for a company for 5, 10, 15 years and not really get a whole lot, but we are a
Yeah.
culture of like gift giving and like expected to really take care of your people, but send them off with some kind of token of appreciation, which I think most people would be really surprised to find out.
I'm quite surprised to be fair. I mean, I've
Mhm.
watched many films, based in military. I've got no military background, I'm not going to pretend I do, but all these films you see, it's just constant shouting and, you don't
Mhm.
necessarily see the community side, like, where you
Yeah.
look out for each other and put out, the cards and gifts and, just bit of TLC. It's not just necessarily
Mhm.
just, training and military and that's it. It's nice to hear. It's quite good. It's quite positive to hear that as well. Bobsled, first time I've ever spoke about it on the podcast. I'm gonna sort of have this opportunity to speak to you about it, and it's great. First of all, how did you first get introduced to bobsled, and what drew you to the sport?
I would say my very first interaction ever was the movie Cool Runnings. And it was a
Yes.
1990s film. So you wouldn't even get that. But I say that to people now that were born post 2000s and they look at me like, what's Cool Runnings? And I'm like, a classic Disney movie.
Yep.
Um, so that was my very first interaction ever. Okay, so this obviously as a kid. And you can't help it but like joke and be like, Sanka, you dead man, like the lines and stuff. So that was my first interaction ever, full disclosure, but not one that would maybe be any different between you and I.
Yeah.
My real interaction that I think got the ball rolling, where the Lord kind of placed that little seed in my heart, was when I was in college. I was playing Division I softball at George Washington University, and we had one jersey that was retired, and that was a retired athlete that was a softball player, yes, but was an Olympic bobsledder. So in 2018, I'm in college and she wins silver in Pyeongchang Olympics and comes to my university. And she had a little Q&A special session just with the softball team. And so I presented her the small award on behalf of the softball team. And that's really what started triggering in my head the little love that I started to grow for bobsledding as I hear her talk about it. And she's like, we go 90 plus miles an hour, we travel the world, we crash at 5 Gs. And I'm like, whoa, like this is awesome.
Yeah.
So I feel like with anything, once you meet someone that has a connection to something, you automatically maybe follow it a little bit more. So that's when I really started paying more attention because I'm like, well, I know her, I met her, like I have a photo with her, like I need to follow this. And at the time, I had been on this trajectory for the military. And like we talked about earlier, the Marine Corps was very demanding, especially as a female. And so I knew that I had to give everything into that. So bobsled was nothing more at the time than a beautiful thought where I literally said out loud, in another life, I would be a bobsledder, but I have the Marine Corps that I need to focus on.
Yeah.
So that was just that small seed in 2018, outside of course, Cool Runnings.
I'm so glad you mentioned Cool Runnings, by the way. Just terrific film. One of my favorite Disney films because people do forget it's a Disney film.
I know. They need to
And
do a remake.
if there is anyone that hasn't seen Cool Runnings, by the way, after this interview, watch it. Comment below what you think of it. Just magnificent film. But it's amazing that you've sort of got this bobsleigh experience and then you've got the military experience. Most people wouldn't get either of them
Mhm.
in a lifetime, and you've done it, and that's
Mhm.
remarkable when you really think about it. But for people who've never tried it, what does a bobsleigh run actually feel like?
It's hard to tell you exactly, so I'll give you a mix. In a way, it kind of feels like a water slide in the sense of like you're gonna ebbs and flow no matter where you go, and you don't always have control over it. So kind of like a water slide wants to pick you up and it kind of has a stream. But imagine that mixed with a motorcycle going that fast of like 89 miles an hour with the wind in your face,
Yeah.
topped with a sleigh ride because it's absolutely freezing. And somewhere in between there, you'll get the equivalent of a bobsled race. Me and all my teammates, we talk about it. We're like, how can we describe this to an average person? And no, so far, none of us have been able to accurately explain it because then when someone does go through it, they're like, yeah, it's not what I thought. I'm like, yeah, it never really is. But it's thrilling, it's exciting, but I will say it is not for everybody, and we learn that quite quickly.
I will just stick with doing the podcast. I don't think I'm going to transition into bobsled any other time. Also, bobsleigh and bobsled.
Hmm.
Like, when doing research for this, I don't know why, but I've always said bobsleigh. Is there
Hmm.
an actual big difference between the two?
This is where also my husband, who is British, gets on me all the time of what's proper English, and it would be bobsleigh. That is the European terminology. That's how it came. That's how it's written. But of course, in America, we want to say something different, and
Yep.
we say bobsled. But generally, especially when we're over in Europe or anywhere talking, it's bobsleigh. Um,
Oh, so I am
yeah.
right.
So
So-
yeah, that's just like an us thing. It's fine.
Oh, that's great. I was talking to my missus before, like in terms of preparing for this interview. I was like, I'm gonna ask. I don't care how dumb I look. And it turns out I'm actually not an idiot, so I'm happy. So
You're not. But what I will tell you, fun fact for you and for anyone listening, the name originated not from a guy named Bob. Everyone's like, who's Bob? It actually was because way back when in Switzerland, when they would start, just like a sled, everyone would be seated. And then you would bob back and forth to get the sled started. So it was called
ah,
bobsleigh because there was no running start. You would sit and bob back and forth in order to create the momentum. So there's a fun fact at least.
I love that. That's wicked. I actually probably would have thought it was a guy called Bob, and he just
Right.
no, that's wicked. That is wicked. Family Feud. So
Mhm.
you've also had more success. Like I said, anything you can't do, but you've also had success on the very, very famous game show, Family Feud. What I want to know is how did this opportunity come about, and what was going through your mind in the moment that you realized that you and your family won?
Yeah. So I'm going to back it up just a little bit because most people
Yeah.
don't know this. That was actually my second game show. I was on a game show previous called Lingo with RuPaul. And that game show came about based off of social media. And I was just talking about my story online and just about how, I'm in this military member, I'm in bobsledding. And at the time, I was just named my first national team. So the highest ranking team for bobsleigh in the United States. But I was going to have to be primarily self funded, which means I needed to cough up $60,000. Yeah, in order to compete. And I prayed on it. And I was like, Lord, I don't know how I'm going to make this happen, but I need to find a way. And I was reached out to on social media to do this game show. And I thought it was a joke. Like, I literally was like, I'm being punked, like, I'm being pranked. And it happened to be my mom and I got accepted. We filmed it in Manchester, of all places,
Hey,
even though it's a American show. And my mom and I end up winning that, so we won $90,000. Now that money was split between the both of us after tax, whatever, but it was enough to cover my season, and
mhm.
so I was able to compete through that. So where Family Feud came into play was my family, who's very competitive, right? I told you my dad was a professional baseball player. I have a younger sister. She's in law school, super underachiever too, right? And they were so excited for me and my mom, but we're like, gosh, like, we wish we could have experienced that with you. And I'm just a big believer in like speaking things out loud and like being very articulate and intentional about what you want. And I said, well, why don't we do like a Family Feud? And everyone's like, yeah, that would be great. I'm like, me and my mom were like, no, we're going to apply. So me and my mom, who have just went through the process, were like, no, we're going to apply. And
Yeah,
then fast forward, yeah, 2 years later, literally 3 days before I deployed to Iraq, we were in Atlanta filming Family Feud. And
that's
it was
mental.
one of the best experiences of my life. We're competitive. We're like, we're going to win. Like, we're the best, no competition. But that game is so difficult. And a lot of it is just chance and what questions you get. And you can't control other people. But what hands down, one of the best experiences of my life.
I think the only one I saw was that you didn't get basket, was it? When they asked you about the basket.
Yeah, that was that was tough. Yeah. It was one of those things in fast money, you see it on TV and there's no pressure, but you have a live audience and you have things and you're thinking. And he said like blank basket. And the way my brain was working, I had like 20, 25 seconds or so. I kept thinking basketball. Like
Mm.
I couldn't like reverse the words in my mind. And of course, afterwards, I'm like Easter basket, fruit basket, whatever. But yeah, I have to live with that one. It's harder than it looks when you're on TV. I just have to say, folks, it's harder than it looks.
Oh, I would have just turned to a zombie and just gone blank to be like,
Yeah.
like, but fair play to you for standing there with Steve Harvey. Just
Hmm.
gotta quickly ask about him. What's he like on and off camera?
Incredible. They always say like don't meet your heroes, and so ahead of time like he's funny, but you're like, okay, is that just TV, right? Is it scripted? And there is so much that you didn't know about that show. Is like it's a 30-minute episodes, but we film for maybe 2 hours per episode. And
Mm.
so there's a whole bunch that's cut out. And he's just like slinging like words left and right at people, like dishing on people, all this stuff. And I almost cried at one point. I was laughing so hard. I was like, I hope this makes it on the tape, and it didn't. But he's incredible, and he's someone that I would love to just have like a dinner with and just feel like I would laugh my absolute like brains out.
I'm happy to hear Steve Harvey's cool. I just remember
Oh
like you
yeah.
used to randomly watch his show, the Steve Harvey show, and then honestly, it's one of those people you just can't escape on social media and YouTube, and
Hmm.
but you got to share screen with him. That's wicked. Um, the book
Hmm.
that is on your left. I'm going to ask you about that. So, what inspired you to become an author, and what was the hardest part of the writing process for you when it came to your book?
For me, I started getting more notice based off of my story through media outlets and stuff. And a constant question that I was asked was, did you always want to be a Marine? Was that something that you wanted as a child? And the answer was no, because I never saw a female Marine. And I realized right then and there how critical that was for the future development, that I want young women to know that they're able to enter these male dominated roles or roles and opportunities that they never thought they would be able to come into. So I stated, again, speak goals out loud. I said, before I'm 30, I want to write a book. I had no idea it was going to be a children's book. Like that was not on my mind. I just said, before I'm 30, I want to write a book. And I remember we were in the middle of season, a week before our team trials, which is like very early season to select like who's on what level of team, like your ranking. And I broke my foot. I had a clean fracture in my foot, and I was a week out. And instead of just feeling sorry for myself, which I did at least for an hour, right? I cried and I felt
Gotta
bad
get
for
some
myself.
sympathy, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a person. I realized I was like, Lord, maybe this is an opportunity for me to do something that I wanted to do that I haven't had the time. So I sat with my foot elevated and I just started writing. And it was really healthy for me to actually kind of have an outlet and start writing. I started writing this book, and I realized again it was a children's book because I noticed that maybe there's other Rileys like me that don't realize that women can join the military, or women can be a professional athlete while also winning pageants, or women that they joke about Marines eating crowns can also be articulate and write a book. And so that's where the idea started. And I just started writing, and I reached out to publishing companies, and I ended up getting picked up. And now I just found out 2 months ago I won a small award for the book. So now I get to say it's an award-winning book, which is incredible. But more than anything,
Awesome.
I have had the ability to hear children tell me that they can do anything that they want in this world because Riley said so and because they read the book. And that's the message that I'm trying to get out to our youth is, obviously there's a little bit of Joshua 1:9, my favorite Bible verse sprinkled in there, but it talks about being bold and courageous and chasing after your dreams. Basically, don't let anyone put you in a box. And I want our youth to know that now more than ever, because on our phones and online, there's all these things that maybe tell people what they can and cannot do. And I just want to create that creativity and spark that again in children to let them know that there's really no limit. And if I can do it, there's absolutely no reason why they can't as well.
That's wicked. The fact that you get to inspire kids around the world that anything is possible.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. What advice would you give to young women, just to follow up? Not even young women, but just
Mhm.
anyone who want to pursue a career in military or being a writer or elite sports. So just any advice, maybe something that stuck with you
Mhm.
throughout all these different journeys that you've gone on in your life so far. But just any
Yeah.
advice at the top of your head.
There's so much I want to say, and it always depends on, basically where people are going, like different maybe advice for someone pursuing the military versus not. But I think the overarching theme that I want to give people is that you have to start with speaking your goals out loud and by holding yourself accountable. And that's in all these things. And I say that because I can't tell you how many people have an idea in their mind and something on their heart that they want to do. But number one, they don't express it to people. Or two, they don't hold themselves accountable to that because they immediately dismiss whether they can do it or not, or someone else has dismissed that thought. So I will tell you, in every single career, every single thing that I've done in the military, I had told me left and right, like, you have no business being in the military. You're too pretty, or you don't have a background, or the Marine Corps is not a place for you. Even collegiate softball, they're like, hey, you're growing up in Indiana. Like, that's not what makes the best softball players. You got to play down south, or, this, that, and the other. Or I was told, like, hey, how are you possibly going to write a book? Like, you say y'all, you're a Marine, you eat crowns. Like, how are you going to be an author? Or when I won a pageant, I don't wear heels very often. I'm in my military boots. Like, I like to be feminine, but like, I don't wear makeup. I like to be very natural. And people are like, how are you going to win a pageant? And I'm like, well, I don't know. And the same with the game shows. Oh, like Family Feud. Yeah, like, yeah, that sounds great. Like a nice to have. And every single one of those things, there was a million excuses of why I shouldn't or I couldn't. And I just want all young women and men to search for the reason why you can. Understand that desire is on your heart for a reason. It is not there on accident. We don't have the same desires.
Yeah.
Speak it out loud and then hold yourself accountable. If that's something you actually want to do, communicate it with your spouse, your best friend. Heck, I had to voice my book to a news outlet to hold me accountable because now it was out there and writing for the world. But then hold yourself accountable to that. If you say you're going to do it, follow through. It doesn't always mean that it works out. Trust me, I've been told no more
Mm.
times than I can tell you. And there was other ideas that were shot down like super quickly. But at least I put myself out there. And I think that's where so many people are getting stuck. And one statistic that I think backs this up, they say, the internet, all those things, that I think it's about like 75% of people said they would be interested in writing or sharing a book, but only 5% of people actually write and see it through publishing. And there's a ton of people that I met that are like, oh, I would love to write a book, but they would be like, well, who would read it? And it's too much effort and I don't know where to start and blah, blah. So they stop that right away. And I'm like, well, if you want to write a book, tell people you want to write a book and hold
Yeah.
yourself accountable. Who cares if one person reads or if no one else did it? That's something for you. It doesn't always have to be for other people. So wrapping that up to answer it again, my best advice would say speak your goals out loud to people that you trust, that you love, or shoot the news if you really want. And then hold yourself accountable to that goal. And you'd be really surprised of the doors that will open up for you. And I believe with faith and perseverance, really great things will happen.
Awesome. Awesome. I like that. That's a good way to sort of end this and lead to my last question for you. This doesn't have to be about bobsled or bobsleigh or military or books or anything like that. It's my signature question. Give me three dream dinner guests. Might be Steve Harvey actually, because you mentioned it earlier. But three dream dinner guests for your dream party. It can be fiction, non-fiction, friends, family, celebrities, anyone you can think of. Three people and a quick reason as to why you want this individual at your dream party. Give me
They
number
have
one.
to be alive.
Nope, dead or
Okay.
alive.
So that's easy. The first one's gonna be Jesus. I want to sit with my homeboy Jesus and I want to be like, Lord, like tell
Homeboy
me
Jesus, I love it.
all about this. Yeah, I'm like, tell me about what was going on. I got questions. And I don't know if that's cheating, but obviously my Christian faith, I'm like,
No,
for
no, no.
sure.
Honestly, I love
Uh,
it. It's your dream party. Absolutely.
yeah. Second, so I'll hit a little bit of everything. Second would be from an athlete perspective. There's an athlete named Pat Tillman. Pat Tillman was a NFL football player that left the NFL to go and deploy in the Middle East, and he ended up dying in the Middle East. But he left his comfort lifestyle of being an NFL athlete, making all this money to go serve in the army, to die in combat. And so I would love to just pick his brain. He's an absolute hero of mine and someone that I would love to just pick apart.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think. The third one, there's so many people that I think are just absolutely incredible. Um, I think then from a female sports aspect, which might throw some people for a loop, but it would be Ronda Rousey. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of her.
I've heard that Rousey.
Yeah, the reason being is Ronda Rousey was actually very influential in my life when I was growing up as a young woman because she was one of the first ones in the UFC to really like make a statement for herself and make herself known, which gave me a lot of energy
Hmm.
of realizing like, hey, if she can enter these roles and make it feminine while also like holding her own, that's someone I want to be like. I know she's done stuff since, but growing up, that was someone. So if you ask me another 10 minutes, I might change my answer. But those are the things that like straight come to my mind. For sure, Jesus, Pat Till, 100%. And yeah, I want to throw a female in there. So I think it'd be a fun dinner party. I think we'd have a lot to talk about.
I like it. As I said, they all mean something to you as well. And Ronda Rousey,
Absolutely.
for me personally, I think did so much for women's MMA,
Hmm.
especially like, you know, where it is now and what she
Hmm.
did at the time. And then the money she was making, people realize, holy shit, like she's making more than the men. And she's really, really earned
Yeah.
a place in the Hall of Fame. And big fan. Look forward to her fight next month as well. Should be good
Hmm.
against
Yeah.
Jennifer Garner. So, Riley, as we are going to sign off in this interview, thank you very much for your time. But is there anything you'd like to share? Anything you want to promote? Yeah, the opportunity is yours. We're now at the end of this interview.
Yeah, couple things. Obviously, I have some two big things coming up. One, I'm 23 weeks pregnant with my first
Oh, congrats.
baby.
Awesome.
Thank you. So I just wanted to give a shout out and just let people know that just because you're transitioning into maybe motherhood, which it's been tough for me, does not mean as women that we have to stop in pursuing our goals. So that's not really promoting. That's just a little thing that's been on my heart and my mind recently that I just want to tell people. But also, it's official this fall. There will be me back on your television, and you will hear more about that soon. But it's official. Sometime in the fall, you will be seeing me again. So be on the lookout.
If the listeners want to be on the lookout and keep up to date when they do eventually see you back on TV, how can they find you on social media?
Yeah, great. So I'm only on LinkedIn and Instagram. So anywhere else there, fake accounts, people. But you can find me, Riley TJack on LinkedIn and Riley.tjack on Instagram. And don't worry, I will give you all the updates. You can stay tuned and follow along. But also just know, listening to this, if you anything resonated with you, I always love to be a mentor and a partner with anybody that is going through anything, men, women, female, all ages. I just want to impact as many people as I can and populate the kingdom of heaven. So any joy or love I can give upon any of you, please don't be a stranger to reach out.
Awesome. Give her a follow. This honestly feels very uplifting, this episode. What a way to sign off, honestly. That is an absolute first that's ever happened. So congrats to you and good luck to you and your family. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and just, yeah, be happy. Honestly, I feel good after this interview. But take care, everyone.